Welcome, everybody, to the Table Rush Talk Show. In this episode, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Chase Clymer, a maestro in the e-commerce arena and the brains behind Electric Eye. Our conversation delved into how he's reshaping the e-commerce landscape through strategic design and development. With his expertise, Chase has been a Shopify aficionado since 2016 and hosts the highly esteemed podcast Honest E-Commerce. Our dialogue explored not only the essence of his work in aiding online entrepreneurs and e-commerce store owners, but also how his podcasting journey has been instrumental in growing his business. Chase shared his unique story of transitioning from the music industry to e-commerce, shedding light on how his experiences have shaped his approach to digital marketing and web design. As we unpacked his journey, it became clear how Chase and his team at Electric Eye have carved out a niche in offering targeted services like website redesign and conversion rate optimization, predominantly for Shopify platforms. Chase, welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be here. I hope I give your listeners what they're listening for. Everybody, we recorded an episode yesterday for my podcast, Honest E-Commerce. You should go find that episode.
So, two things I want to cover with you today. Number one, of course, is what you do and how you help online entrepreneurs, e-commerce store owners, and brands, how you help them, what you do there. And second, how you use your podcast to help you grow your business, because you are rather adept at it, I must say.
Absolutely. Good? Yeah, we can dive on in. I guess we should start at the beginning, right? We accidentally started an agency like 7 or 8 years ago, me and my partner, Sean. And at that time, I had just, my band had just broken up. Everyone can go Google my name and find out what band I was in and have fun on Spotify. We've got over 1 million plays on our best single. So, that's a little trivia tidbit for you. So anyways, I was in a band forever. It didn't pay the bills, and I was slowly leveling up my skills in digital marketing and web design and strategy. I did a lot of like ads. I had a bunch of clients in some various places. And then my business partner came along as I kind of migrated out of the music world. And my business partner had just left a startup here in Columbus, Ohio that was doing a lot of apparel. And yes, Mischa.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question. So when you were doing your band stuff and you had 1 million streams, and I'm sure people listening are going, wow, 1 million streams, and you weren't paying the bills, we don't need to dive into the metrics of how it's really hard to be profitable as a band, but were you learning all this online marketing and all this stuff? Were you diving deep to help grow your band? Is that what was going on?
Well, yeah, that was like the band thing was we were like a pop punk band, and we got as cool as like we got offered Warped Tour, which is a big deal to some people out there that are listening. So no, we had no money, and so we couldn't pay people to do a lot of this stuff. I had always been a computer nerd. I like developed my first website, I think, when I was 13. It was terrible, but I like self-taught myself HTML and CSS and all sorts of stuff. And if you remember way back when, a lot of bands, this is when MySpace was a thing, people were doing custom MySpace layouts. And so it's photography and then like custom HTML and CSS layouts for these custom MySpace profiles to look cooler, etc. I self-taught myself how to do all that stuff. So anyways,
hold on one second. And because I can't let this go by. I mean, I'm a little bit older, but I indeed know what the Warped Tour was or is. I don't know if it's still
RIP. It's gone. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Where? But anyway, did you go on the Warped Tour?
We got an offer and we broke up.
No. Oh my gosh.
I mean, I'm not here to tell that story, but everyone had better opportunities. A lot of the members of that band are in giant bands now. So we were like a farm league. Think of us. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. And we've got the Columbus Clippers, and they are the farm team for the Indians. And how I sleep at night is I say that my band was a farm team.
Well, that's incredible. I was hoping that the story was like there was girls involved and you broke up over women or some darn thing. But Anyway, well, we can save that for episode interview number 2. Amazing. So anyway, get back to it. I totally interrupted you.
Oh no,
Um,
no, it's fine. Where I don't know. So
okay, so
whole time I'm traveling,
yeah.
I am making money by freelancing, doing kind of advertising, social media management, like just kind of dabbling in all sorts of uh freelance digital marketing things that I could do from a laptop in the back of a 15 passenger van in the middle of a cornfield driving through, Iowa or something. And so once I stopped doing that, once like the band was over, I kind of just doubled down into freelancing and doing all this digital stuff. And that's when Sean, my business partner, him and I met a long time ago. We actually did the album art for my band's first 2 albums together. That's how we met. And so when he left this apparel company, he was the second hire there, and he left when his job stopped being design and it started being managing designers. So that wasn't like, he didn't like doing that. And so he starts freelancing. He's making all these mistakes. And I'm like, dude, you're all this is wrong. So I'm helping him just learn the business of freelancing per se. And then he starts bringing me all these Shopify projects. And he's like, "Hey, I'm doing the design and stuff on these things, and you understand marketing and strategy and growth. Like, let's start doing." So next thing I know, we've got like a dozen clients that we're working with, and they're asking us like, "Who do we pay?" And we don't even have a name at this point. And like that's how the agency got started. Was just like we stumbled into it and realized we were good and our skill sets complemented each other. So we literally made a list of heavy metal song names that we liked. And we established that Electric Eye by Judas Priest was the best name for our agency. And there we are. So that was 7 or 8 years ago the agency started.
Amazing. I love some Judas Priest. Love that album. Electric Eye. That song was from Screaming for Vengeance, I
It's
believe
right
it
there.
was.
If anyone's watching on video, it's on my wall right there.
Yes, love that album. So good, man. Seminal album. Was that 82, 3, or 4? Something like that?
I wasn't even thought of then.
Yeah, you weren't even thought of. I was a rascal in high school. I was creating lots of havoc and chaos listening to Judas Priest, all those bands of the time. I can't remember. Metallica was just starting to come up. Yeah. Anyway, side note, continue.
Yeah.
So,
So I guess that's how the agency got started. And then, like most agencies, we tried everything under the sun as services and like learned what we liked and didn't like, the types of businesses that we liked to work with and didn't like to work with. Quickly, we super niched down into e-commerce. I think we launched as an e-commerce agency from the get-go. And then within I would say a couple of months, it was Shopify exclusively. If you weren't on Shopify, it wasn't like a good fit for us unless you were migrating to Shopify.
so,
Um,
oh yeah, go. Sorry.
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so you stumble into this, all of a sudden you have 5, 10, 15 clients. People are like, can we pay you? And you're like, I guess let's see. Here's Stripe or something or whatever's going on back then.
Yep.
What are you doing for people? It
So
might sound like a crazy question, but literally, what are you doing?
so back then, it was our best, our like number one service when we started. Actually, was Facebook ads for Shopify stores, like brands on Shopify. We no
And
longer do Facebook ads though. So this is the funny
okay,
thing.
that
So
is the funny thing. Yes, go.
yeah, so we started there, and then as our clients got bigger and as our expertise got wider, we started with the Facebook ad stuff and we were still doing design stuff, and then we got more into the design dev stuff, and we expanded from Facebook to also being doing like meta marketing, etc. So we were a full service agency for quite some time, doing a lot of design dev stuff, and then doing the paid ad stuff. And then the pandemic hit, and I actually completely made a mistake. I thought that the pandemic was going to cause this big issue with like money. Basically, I was like, all right, well, this is a catastrophic event, and the first thing that's going to go away from all these budgets is going to be marketing spend. We're going to drop our marketing service and focus on this other thing that historically has been more sticky with better clients, and we're going to double down into design, dev, and optimization. Like that's the lane we're going to play in. Now, what actually happened during the pandemic is everyone's dollar went to spending online, and that's where Facebook and Google like charges went through the roof. And it was actually, in retrospect, a very dumb decision from the where I was coming from. It didn't make any sense. But for the business, narrowing our focus and drilling down into basically now these days we offer two services. That's it. But like the niching down of what we do at the agency, that was extremely impactful and extremely good for our business. It was just funny how we got there.
Yeah, interesting. So I was doing a little looking you up on LinkedIn, and you have a post. You were on a podcast. It was the what is it? The Red Thread Messages podcast, which actually changed their name now to what is it? These are the things that I go down the rabbit hole on. Where to go? Attract Your Ideal Customers podcast. Anybody, so anybody listening can go find the Attract. I lost it now. Attract Your Ideal Customers podcast and listen to your interview on there. That was with Marcus Holler or Schaller or something. Yeah, am I saying that right? Anyhow, you have this great little blurb on LinkedIn that was posted where it says it's all about positioning, and positioning is the concept of niching down into certain subsegments. And then you go on, and it ends with basically, the more you niche down, the more you can charge, and the higher level that you can serve at, or the higher level you can serve your customer, which I think speaks to what you were just saying. And if I
Absolutely.
heard,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'll let you riff on that in a second, but if I heard you right, you said, "Hey, I made for the business." Is Sean still your partner, or did he fire
Yeah.
you?
No, he's still here.
Okay, good. You said, "Hey, let's pivot to this because no one's going to spend anymore," which was a brutal mistake in the moment, but in hindsight has been very powerful for you because it allowed you to niche down and commit to a certain direction. And that is that what I was hearing you say there?
Absolutely. And I can use an example. So this is definitely a mistake I see a lot of entrepreneurs make that are launching service businesses is it's like a me too business. It's like, oh, I can also do that. Oh, I can also do that, right? So then what happens is you get a lot of these random projects, which is fine. Everyone needs to do that at the beginning. Learn what you like to do, what you don't like to do. And you can get paid to learn to teach yourself stuff on other people's dimes if you want to be completely honest. But what happens is as you start to grow as a business, uh let's use this example. Mischa, your roof, it's got a hole in it and it's leaking. Are you going to call a general contractor or are you going to call a roofer?
Yeah, I'm calling a roofer for sure.
All right. So when you think about this from the perspective of anyone in digital or just like any sort of service business, if you do every service, you're never going to be top of mind for your customers when they have that need. But if you're really good at one thing, the second they have that need, you're going to be the person that they go to. And so I earlier I alluded to we basically do two things. We redesign websites and we do CRO. And that's the only thing that we're doing these days. So when I have conversations with partners, I go, this is our ICP. These are the things that you should be listening for. And this is how we help them. When I'm talking to prospects, when I'm talking to people at conferences, it's very easy for me to get across like, these are the two things we do. And this is, I can quickly tell whether or not we can help them. Um, and then I guess tangentially to that, and I know that you love sales just as much as I do. It's like you get to know a lot faster when you know exactly what you do. With the understanding of a prospect is wasting your time or not.
Love that. It's so interesting. I think the general perception of the public is that when a sales call is happening, the person being sold is qualifying us, but really we're qualifying them, right? Where
Absolutely,
are you? Yeah, where are you in your business? What's your revenue? What do you spend? Can I help you? Right? That's what we're trying to figure out. And are you ready to be helped? That's the rest of the story because so many prospects are out there need help but aren't ready to be helped, right?
absolutely. We're almost 20 minutes in this podcast, and I still haven't answered your question on what we do.
I've even lost track of what it is. But quickly, I want to make sure that everybody listening watching, go to electriceye.io, electriceye.io, and you can follow along and see what Chase is up to. And at the very bottom, there's even an opt-in for a free something down there. So make sure you opt in and jump on Chase's list. I believe I was asking you, what do you do? And so you mentioned two things: redesign websites and CRO. And tell me, CRO stands for?
Conversion rate optimization, which I could argue that is the only thing we do.
You're redesigning the websites to increase conversion rate optimization.
Yep.
Okay, cool. And then you also mentioned ICP.
Yeah. Our ideal client profile. So uh basically what we're doing for merchants. So most businesses that we're working with now, there are some edge cases and all, and we break our own rules because it's our business and that's fun and we can do whatever we want. But most of the time we're working with established businesses that already have product market fit in the ecosystem. And by that I mean, like, people are buying their thing like all day long. This is a real business. They have employees, people are getting paid salaries. This is a real e-commerce business. They're not trying to figure it out. Oftentimes these brands may be in something like what they refer to as like a scaling phase, like they're out of the startup infancy. So from like a money perspective, like these brands are doing well above $1 million a year into tens to 20 millions. That's usually where the clients that we work with are hanging out. And what they are selling is a physical product to a customer online through Shopify. Or here's the caveat: they want to move to Shopify. We do a lot of migrations from other platforms to Shopify to solve for business needs. If someone came up to me and they like want to move their website to Shopify and they're on BigCommerce or Magento, but they want to change nothing about their business, nothing about their web design, nothing about anything on their stack, I wouldn't take that project on, because there's no advantage to being on Shopify versus Magento or BigCommerce. At the end of the day, if everything is optimized to the T by an expert, they're just tools in your tool belt. So like, I'm obviously a Shopify fanboy. I'm a stockholder. Like, I built my business around it, but I am also smart enough to just say, like, if all you have is a hammer, everything is a nail. Like, we're not going to force people to make these leaps if they don't need to. Um, that was a whole rabbit hole that I went down for no reason.
Hey, I love it. Really quick, would you rather be on tour or doing what you're doing?
Oh, I love paying my bills, so I'd rather be doing this. But I do miss it. I mean, traveling was super fun when I was younger. Playing music, still fun to this day. But I'm still great friends with a lot of those people. When I get that itch, I just go visit my friends that are still doing it at whatever show they're playing closest to us. So I still get to dabble a little bit in that world, but
Yeah,
not nearly as much as I used to.
sure. And I'm thinking too, I mean, you're clearly creative. You're smart as heck. I mean, when you interviewed me, that was a ton of fun. Again, everybody look for that episode on the honest e-commerce podcast, because I crushed it and Chase just made me look so good. Um, but I guess the question was a little bit, and then we'll get back to what you do. But I'm just thinking creativity. You're very smart. You're super creative. So this is you get to express yourself through your electriceye.io, through your company, right?
Hmm.
So do you find the same satisfactions through that as you did perhaps making music? I guess it's more of a little side riff for us to go on, but
No,
I'm
it's a great question. So what is creatively impactful with Electric Eye is, like, one, redesign projects are so much fun. The before and after, just like, that's why HDTV, like all these house shows are famous. It's just so much fun. The before and after, like, here's all these problems and this ugly baby, and let's make it pretty. Um, so those are super fun projects. What really gets me going is when we start getting into the more strategic. Like, I definitely am a nerd. Like, I love the, like, technical side of things, like, so like the strategy behind how to help a customer put more in their cart, right? So raising average order value, like, we nerd out on that. Raising conversion rate, nerd out on that. Doing true split testing, on websites and finding the statistical winner. Like that stuff is super interesting to me because it allows me to creatively solve a problem that at sometimes you don't know what the problem is, and you have to find problems and then make hypotheses on what the solution will be to solve for that problem. So all of that scratches like a really problem solving creative part of my brain that I think that music also was fun to do.
Cool, great answer. Thank you so much. And then you get to go on a podcast tour. I know you're very active on podcasts, so what a great way to express yourself and just, be that light or be the center of attention or just carry a great message. Yeah.
I try to carry a great message, and let's see if I can continue to on this one.
Yeah. Perfect. So you two ways I want to go with this. So you're looking for established brands, or you are best able to serve, it's your sweet spot, brands that have dialed in their messaging, they're selling their products, they've hired people, they're not trying to figure it out per se. They've got the machine going. And so now they're ready to scale. They're ready to lever up.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would
that's it.
say the commonalities of like why people are reaching out to us is like they're on a legacy theme on Shopify. So Shopify made all these updates in the last 18 months where all the old themes are, if you invest in that still, it's technical debt and it's never going to be as good as what the new things are. They just completely changed how themes work. So that's a lot of projects that we're doing these days is like these redesign projects and upgrading people to online store 2.0. Doing a lot of those migrations, like I said earlier, where people are on platforms that they're not happy with and they have like a good business case to make that migration. And those projects are definitely a little more difficult to get right and a lot easier to get wrong, especially from like an SEO perspective. You'll see like botched migrations all the time where someone just disappears from Google and they're like, "What happened here?" And it's like, "Well, you didn't do it right." That's always kind of like, not to be a fear monger there, but that's a great way to like lose your organic traffic and all the money from that. So that's like a lot of our business is like kind of bigger projects like that, like redesign projects. And then the other half of our business is more of a retainer based thing where we're doing ongoing like CRO and optimizations. And a lot of those clients come to us and they say the same thing. It boils down to, I know we have a cool business or a good business or a profitable business, right? Something like that. I know we have something good. How do we make it better? And they're like leaning on us to help tell them how to make it better. And that's where we're getting into more of this thought behind like real conversion rate optimization. And the cool thing about e-commerce is it just comes down to math. And so you've got your average order value, you've got your conversion rate, and then you've got your sessions for whatever time you're talking about. So we usually look at it in the last 30 days. You multiply all those things together, you're going to get basically your sales for that last month. And now you got your baseline to start optimizing from. And so when it comes to conversion rate, what impacts the conversion rate on a website is the user experience. It would be like the software thing, but it's like the customer experience. It's the theme. It's like interactive. It's like how you buy shit on site. So like the whole front end of the website, there are a lot of choices that can be made there to optimize the user experience to increase conversions, right? Um, a lot of mistakes are always made within navigation, sorting, filtering. Performance is a big driver of conversion rate, and we're talking about like the speed of the website. And then there are just then you can start testing more interesting hypotheses on why people aren't buying. So people won't buy your product. It comes down to fear, uncertainty, and doubt about your product. So I'm getting really deep into this one for some reason,
Oh,
but
go. I
let's
love
go.
it. This
So
is
yeah,
amazing.
so we focus on conversion rate. That's a really fun one. The next one, average order value. This comes down to your offers that you're presenting to your customers. So basically, if you got something that's like a commodity, let's say like cat snacks, right? You can just do like buy more, save more deal, right? Or like buy two, get like you can do all these crazy offers to increase the conversion rate from like a $7 product, which you don't want to ship a $7 product online because you're not going to make any profit. You want to get 10 of those $7 products in one box because then you're making a lot more profit. So like you're trying to present better offers to raise your average order value when you're like on the commodity side of thing. But on the flip side, that same strategy won't work on something that's more like of a luxury. Like I don't need 10 couches. It's like you're not gonna. That's not a deal that appeals to me. So you got to get more creative. Like, well, if this guy's buying a couch, it's a $3,000 couch. Maybe he wants this ottoman thrown in for free, or for 50% off of this ottoman to rate to now I'm not spending just 3,000, I'm spending 3,500 because I'm buying this ottoman for 50% off or whatever, right? So the strategy behind raising average order value through upsells, through bundling, those are really fun to play around with for merchants and to drive that up. And both of these activities are just on the front end of your store. And those are things that we like to do at the agency and what we're really good at. And then the third thing I talked about was sessions. We don't do anything with that. That is marketing, that is advertising, and we want to partner with your team that's doing your Facebook ads or that's running your email campaigns, to build out these improve these KPIs that we already found on your, like, that we want to increase on your store. And in tandem, we're gonna, build an awesome landing page for, we're recording this on Valentine's Day, right? So we're gonna build an awesome landing page for your Valentine's Day bundle. And in tandem with your Facebook team, they're gonna send a bunch of ad traffic there, and we're gonna split test that offer to make sure that $20 off is the winner versus, buy two get one is the like, which one is the actual winner, so you can split test that on the page. We're going to retarget those people with your email company. So, like, all of this stuff works in tandem. I just went off on what we do, but
Dude,
CRO, we want to make your sales go up. We like lifetime value, revenue per visitor, average order value, conversion rate.
I love it. Amazing. Thank you for barfing that out really quick. No, I love it. I love this stuff. I know I'm a podcaster and I help people get on podcasts, but you know, I, I'm selling something too. Average cart values, upsells, um, sessions. I like that. The time metric. So what's your session? What's the what did you call it? I have it written down. Yeah, the time metric. So hey, 30 days. Let's look at your marketing budget and then we can go from there, extrapolate what needs to be done there. So the question that came to my mind was you're talking to these, I don't know if established is the right word, but companies that are having success or on the verge of success. Are they familiar with these terms? Average order value, part value, split testing, all these terms that are very normal for us who are hanging out in funnel land.
I would say half of the terms we're talking about they're familiar with. The other half we are educating them on. I would say that a $1 million a year brand does not have the traffic to support proper split testing, proper A/B testing, getting a statistically significant result from a test takes a lot of conversions. And now a conversion isn't just a purchase, a conversion is them doing what you wanted them to do from the test. So now we're getting into like some real technical stuff. So at $1 million a year, they've probably never done this right. At $5 million a year, this is probably getting into where they do have the stuff to support it. But they probably have never ran a test. So we're getting pretty cocky per se, where it's like, we'll build your first test for free to get you into this idea of testing your website. Because here's the deal: out of every 10 tests, you're gonna have like two winners. One might be a loser, and then the rest of them aren't gonna do anything, right? But it's that one winner, or those two winners are gonna make those incremental improvements that really truly matter and put money in your pocket. So you have to, I think the first thing is we do have to sell these merchants or these brand owners, on this testing mindset and being honestly like almost okay with failing. Because I guess if you don't have a winning test, that's a failing test. That's fine. That's part of the game. Just move, like, now you have more information. That hypothesis was wrong. That's not the solution to solve for why you did it in the first place. Go back to the drawing board, do another test.
Love it. Um, so there's the internal battle that the owners have, whatever we're calling them, the founders, whatever the brand owners, or am I saying that right in your
Yeah,
language there?
it's all, the language is all over the place, but yeah, like merchants. I think Shopify calls them merchants. We like to call them brands or whatever. These are entrepreneurs that are passionate about a problem and they made a product that solves that problem.
Love it. So these merchants that are solving problems and they're passionate about their product, they have that mind battle of, wait a minute, we're going to try 10 different ideas, and we're going to make micro changes on each idea to try to find the one that starts moving the needle, right? So you're like, hey, no, we don't want to do wholesale changes. Maybe we want to change the headline, for example, or we want to change the bundled price, for example. Am I saying these kinds of things
You
right?
are 50-50. I
Okay.
would say each test we want to do bigger tests, not smaller tests. Like a
Okay.
headline change isn't a big enough test in my opinion. You want to, like, if we're on a landing page per se, we're going to test two completely different layouts of that landing page.
Okay.
Like, right? That's a big test and we're just going to let that test run. And maybe that test we learn it doesn't do anything. So
Both
like that's
suck.
that's a loser. Oh, well, there just isn't like a winner, that makes the
Okay.
revenue per visitor go up. But
Yeah,
you
yeah.
learn from that, and we're gonna keep working on it, and and then maybe the third one we do get something like, oh, we presented the bundle in a different way. It's the same bundle, but we presented it in a different way. That one actually increased people buying that bundle, and we're like, all right, we're onto something here. So now this is the new baseline, and then we're gonna get back into it. Like, let's start testing some more stuff. But yeah, it's with these tests, a lot of tests just won't matter. It's like
Let me ask you a
either
question.
of these work is basically what the data is going to tell you.
What's it like when you find those changes? You're on test 9 or 10 or 11, and then it it pops. Yeah.
It makes it
And
all worth it. It's like, look, this. So like, the cool thing about all of these about e-commerce being math is like when you expand it from, like, say you get a conversion rate increase of 10% on the conversion rate, that maybe doesn't sound like a lot of money, but like when you extrapolate it to they're getting 100,000 sessions a day, like that 10% bump could be $1 million a month in additional revenue.
yeah, that's real money. Any of you merchants listening, try some split testing. Be willing to fail 9 times to get that 10th
Yeah, if
what
you can take
home
anything
run. Yeah.
away from this is just like it's the ID, like just being okay with testing. And testing, there are some winning tests and there are some losing tests, but the winners are gonna make your business go exponentially better. Just being scared of testing or being scared of things being off brand is just really crippling your growth.
Mm, So good. So perhaps being willing as a merchant to think outside of the box, be open to some new concepts, to failing. And really, you're not, it sounds like you're not failing. You're just maybe not
You're
having
you're
the
learning is what you're
six. Yeah,
doing.
you're learning, and you're not, you have revenue, so you're not crippling your revenue. You're just trying
No,
to get that spike, right? You're trying to find how to increase that revenue or increase the average order value, which once you start increasing average order value, cart values, things like that, it just all of a sudden the ROI on your
exactly.
ad
Yeah, there's a
spend and all
there's a
these things.
direct correlation between average order value increase and return on ad spending increase. It's directly correlated. So if you raise the average order value from $75 to $100, your return on ad spend has just gone up by 25%. And without
Amazing.
without changing your ad budget, without even optimizing your ad, you're just making more profit per acquisition.
Cool. I love that. And I do want to restate something that you said that I thought was very interesting. You're like, hey, we're not here to take over your marketing. We're not here to replace your ad guy, your Facebook ads person, your marketing department. We're here to help maximize your dollar spend with that team. So let's
Yeah.
work together. Yeah.
It's funny when we come into these scenarios, rarely, unless it's like a full service team scared that we're like taking the business away. It's like rarely is it that. It's more they're like, we have all these ideas. We know where these holes are. Let's start. Like, they will start pointing us in the direction. They already know where it hurts. And it's like, cool, we can hit the ground running.
Love it. So good. So that's cool. So we've got sort of this technical side where maybe some merchants are like, well, all right, I'll take the leap. I'll start thinking outside of the box and playing with different upsells, this, that, and the other thing. But I'm imagining when you are dealing with somebody who's selling $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, they build themselves a little business here and they've got their website, and you're like, um, well, we kind of need to make some changes and perhaps some wholesale changes. Their egos, I want to be delicate here, but I'm betting there's an internal struggle that these entrepreneur merchants, these really smart guys that are guys and gals, excuse me, that are, serving or their ideas, their product are working, and they're like, well, I know. Does that make sense? Am I saying that
No, I
right? Or
know what you're
like,
saying, and you're being a lot more gentle than my response will be. $1 million a year business is a small business. It's not a big business. And if you want to make a big business, you need to let experts do what you're hiring them to do. And it's a blunt answer. And I see a lot of merchants get in their own way. They think that because they have built $1 million business, that they are an expert at everything. And it's like, no, I have seen you have a good product and you have a good offer. Congratulations. You still have a shit website. Like a bad product with a good market will outperform a good product in a bad market. Like if market is actually more important, like finding product market fit is more important than everything I've talked about today. So you can have a home run with a really bad website if you have a good product that solves a problem that exists in a big market.
love it. This is so good. What do you see the biggest issue that people that aren't on Shopify, they've got their machine going, they've got their website. You mentioned some other companies that do the same sort of thing as
Yeah,
Shopify.
I'll be gentle, I guess, here for some reason, being mean a second ago, and now I want to be nice. All right, so like when businesses are on Magento and BigCommerce, it's usually those are not necessarily hosted solutions, and they're pretty technical. So you are usually you have to maintain those with like an agency on retainer, and sometimes those fees are quite expensive. You also have to like cover the hosting expenses and make sure that your servers are like running and all that stuff. A lot of that stuff Shopify just takes care of for you. So that in and of itself can make a lot of merchants want to move. There's this big downsizing of expenses and stuff. So with if you could have the same business and you didn't have to spend $20,000 a month on like server fees and maintenance on this thing, and then on Shopify, it's just that's included in the cost of Plus. 10 times less, that is a good business case to make a switch from something like that. On the flip side of things, like if you're a smaller business and you like, you're doing 80, $100,000 a month on Squarespace, you already know what Squarespace can't do for you. It is not built for real businesses. So like you need to upgrade to like Shopify, and you like the way that it integrates with marketing automation softwares, with Facebook, with all that stuff. Like where your pain points are with that, so that we'll see a lot of people migrate over from those things. Um, like with WooCommerce, kind of what I just said before, but more from a security perspective. Like there's a lot of maintenance and security stuff you got to keep kind of. So oftentimes when people come to us for migration, they've already know why they don't want to be on their platform. They just want us to help them get over in a more smooth kind of way.
Almost like a breath of fresh air. They want to breathe better and
Yeah,
perhaps increase their
they've already
profitability.
been sold on Shopify. They just want us to make sure that their widgets and use cases, we can make sure like it's never like a one for one thing, but we kind of walk them through like here's the feature parodies of like it works this way, it's going to work this way, and just make sure they know. And it's like this thing on the old website, no one uses it, so we're just not even going to rebuild it. And but this feature that's going to be on Shopify you never had before, and this is going to make you money.
Love it. Um, Everybody, again, electriceye.io, electriceye.io. So are you kind of an 80s metalhead to a certain extent? I mean, because that's for me, it's not an obscure reference, but for anybody that's your age, it might be a really obscure reference.
I mean, I might ride the lightning a little bit. I definitely enjoy 80s metal. I enjoy modern metal. I am a big music guy. Um, yeah, I definitely I'm listening to a lot, but it's funny. It goes even beyond that. Like I'm like on this whole like 70s like soul kick lately. I listen to pop country because I'm a weirdo. Like Miley Cyrus is like in my is always has earworms. That Flower song is great.
She is so captivating. I mean, she is really just if we could all build our websites to emanate what she, you know what I mean? Just people are
Yeah.
like, I'm not sure why, but I gotta buy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, it's music is a big passion of mine. And then uh kind of in the same realm, I'm a huge audiobook nerd, so I am
Mhm.
constantly listening to books and learning there. So I try to split my time between uh more creative outlets with like high fantasy nonsense, and then more businessy stuff where like something that's more like a business book. So right now I'm finishing Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. I'll be done with that probably today. But I had just knocked out the Red Rising trilogy by Pierce Brown, which is like a science fiction space opera fantasy thing.
Amazing. So you being a marketer and sort of a data nerd and all this kind of stuff, I'm imagining you read the what was it, the red what?
Red Rising.
The Red Rising, and you are pulling business takeaways from the Red Rising. Yes
That
or no?
there's I don't know. I tried to put this kind of I was like working on a article about this about how reading fantasy books unlocks ideas, and I think it just helps you with creative problem solving because I think that is the most satisfying, like the most satisfying thing that you find when you're reading a good story is when the answer to the problem isn't obvious and the way they solve it is extremely creative. That's like the most satisfying thing when you're reading a book. This is the problem, and instead of the most straightforward solution, they do this other thing. That always is exciting, but then also it makes your brain kind of there are connections made up there to where, you're never going to be facing the same problem, but I think it makes your brain work a little bit different.
I love that. And I'll ask again perhaps, but any tangible business insight or idea, or that you could say, oh yeah, I was reading the red. Sorry, I've forgotten the name again.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I nothing off the top of my head.
okay.
But I mean, maybe tangentially, there are some fantasy authors out there that haven't finished their series, and I think that's a bad business plan.
Anybody we need to talk to get him to get that next book written?
George R. R. Martin, everyone on the internet hates him, and then Patrick Rothfuss needs to finish that trilogy.
This is amazing. I love the way uh how the fantasy, that theme, that book style inspires you, and the way you articulated that was very cool. So thank you for that. The Chris Voss book, what was the name of that one again?
Never Split the Difference, which
Any
it's
key takeaway from that right now?
yeah, so something that was really interesting to that was I mean it's all about negotiation. Um, but something that was interesting is one of the parts I just read was like you need to understand what type of negotiator you are. And so there are people that are very aggressive. That'd be me probably. They don't like silence. They're going to give a lot of information away when there is silence. And so like that is one style. Another style would be someone that's more analytical and they like silence. They don't want to make a deal right there. They want to go away and noodle on it and figure stuff out. And so like if you got an aggressive style versus a style like that, like it's a bad matchup basically, and you're gonna need to lower your stealth down and try to make them like give some give some more information. And it talks a lot about how in human nature, it's like if you give someone something, they feel like they need to give it back, the reciprocal nature of that kind of stuff. There's also a third style, which is more like I just want to be friends with everybody. And that's kind of more in the middle. But this reciprocal nature of it, like a more analytical person, they like perceive that just the fact that they're talking to you is a gift. Uh, but then like on our side, like you listening, like you being able to talk to me is a gift as well. Like, so there are there, it's very, very interesting book about those styles. But basically, Chris Voss was an FBI negotiator. So he was using a lot of these tactics when he was like talking about like helping with terrorism and kidnappings and all sorts of stuff. And then he started to consult in the business world.
Amazing. Thank you for that. I was just thinking narcissist. That'd be me. Like you know how lucky you are to be talking to me right now. Like,
Yeah.
um, oh my gosh. So I favorite customer success stories where you were able to get someone to Shopify, or maybe they're already on Shopify and you were able to, do some split testing or anything come to you top of mind?
Well, something that came top of mind. This isn't even recent. This is probably like the first time looking back, like we were just like, yeah, we're really good at what we do. So it was a client and they just sell like accessories in the pool and spa ecosystem. So pool filters, chemicals, nonsense for, your pools and spas or whatever. They were on WordPress and basically the project was we migrated them from WordPress to Shopify. We added a bunch more features and functionalities to their site, updated like kind of the UX of everything. And then we kind of sent them on their way and like introduced them to a marketing partner. They're still a client to this day. But like I think just that project, the business quadrupled in the 18 months after that project. Um, they were I can't give you exact numbers, but it was definitely a very they were a small business to begin with, but now they would say they'd be not as small of a business. But that one was
Amazing.
like super. Yeah, that one was super fun.
Are we allowed to say the company name?
I already said the name actually. So poolandspasale.com.
Oh, there we go. Amazing. Well, thank you for that. That's cool.
Yeah,
How
that was like a really early project. That was probably 7 years ago when we did that first site for them. Well, yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of case studies on our website, a lot of redesign projects, a lot of replatforming projects. Um, with the kind of wins documented there.
cool. Electriceye.io, everybody. Electriceye.io. And there is indeed yeah, case studies and all sorts of good stuff there. So click through your guys' site for sure. Um, I want to jump into how tactical you are in getting clients. And I'm imagining, well, first, I just want to say I love that moment myself where you have that epiphany of like, I'm good at what I do. And this is amazing and it's fun. And just what a great space to be. So love that. I'm betting that you get some referrals. You probably have an active referral a base. I'm thinking, yeah. Is that a good way to say that? Yeah.
Absolutely. I would say any agency our size, if they were going to sit down and look at all their inbound opportunities and like segment them out to, qualified, good fits, bad fits, etc., and where they came from, they would probably it'd be close to 50% of all of their business would come from referrals. And then if they wanted to look a little bit deeper, all of the more qualified stuff would come from referrals as well, versus kind of just like all inbound. So that's the majority of our business, and I would argue like most other agencies' businesses. Like most of the opportunities are gonna come in from referrals, and those referrals are gonna come from like other agencies, subject matter experts that we partner with, a lot of our tech partners. So we're in the Shopify ecosystem. We get referrals from Shopify all the time, from like some of the bigger apps that we use, like Nostra or IntelliGems or Recharge, etc. Like all these different SaaS softwares that we use, we get referrals from them as well. So that's like the majority of our business. And then the other stuff is from events, from networking, from like a more of our personal network, and all that stuff. So, anyways, all this is just the reality of owning an agency. And then I had been doing the podcast for 5 or 6 years. About 2 or 3 years ago, I read a book by a guy I can't remember, and I'm gonna try to find it after this. But it was a your typical ClickFunnels esque read this book and then hire me type tripwire thing. But it was all about building an agency. And something that struck out to me in that book, he basically just said, look, if you don't have a cold outreach strategy that is successful for growing your service business, you don't have a business, is like basically what he said. And so he was talking about using cold email to land clients for basically paid media marketing agencies. But I did take that line to heart and some of the other stuff in there. So we really started to look into outreach as like a way to just make net new relationships. And so we tried a few different things, and then like don't know why I never put two and two together. And I was just like, wait, like I've got the coolest thing ever to reach out to people about. It's my podcast. So we really we flipped the script, and now like I use the podcast to make relationships with basically our ideal client profile at the agency. So all of our main episodes are with basically brands that I think would be a great client of Electric Eye. And now we're building that relationship. We're having a pre-interview. We're having the interview. The thing comes out later, and all of that. We're building a relationship there, and they're never necessarily looking for our services at that time. But now they know who the heck we are, and we have had clients come from this. Multiple clients come from this, and those are net new opportunities. That it's a whole new category, like within this like sales funnel of just net new business and top line revenue, all from the podcast. I really breezed through it, and I know you've got some specific questions for me there.
Well, that was an amazing recap of it. I love it. When we were talking yesterday, you had some great tactical, you talked about some tactics that you employ, one of them being LinkedIn. And so maybe talk me through your LinkedIn strategy to get these guys on your show, guys
Yeah.
and gals, business owners. Yeah.
So here's a hot tip. I saw this on Twitter, and some guy was like, "Hey, someone already has that prospecting list that you want out there. You should just find them on Upwork and just buy it off them." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And so I had to think through it. And basically what he said is, your ICP, someone already built a prospecting list for that ICP. So just go on LinkedIn and make a thing that says, I want to buy a list that's already created for this ICP. And I was like, well, it's for you to make a listing. Let me do this. And I did that. And lo and behold, there's hundreds of applicants, but there's like a dozen. They're like, oh, I just did this for this client. I've got 15,000 XYZs in this thing. I've got their emails and their LinkedIn's just like you want. And I was like, send me a sample, etc. You work out a deal. Next day, you've got your ICP list. And then so that shortens this thing from hiring someone to do prospecting to now you have a list that's probably a little bit further along. You still want to validate that list. You're still going to need someone to go through and like check that homework, but that'll get you very, very far along. From there, you can do whatever you want as far as outreach goes. We were using email for a long time, and I have recently, like Mischa alluded to, switched over to LinkedIn. And so I use Linked Helper 2 as my automation software, and I dump a bunch of profiles in there, and I have a whole script written out. And I believe my script is 4 things over 4 with 4-day breaks between them. So over 16 total days, 4 touches. But basically, like the first line is, hey, I have a top 5% podcast. Would you be interested in being a guest? And I'm sending that to the founders of brands that I think would be good fits for Electric Eye. And that starts the relationship.
Amazing. So what are emails 2, 3, and 4 over the 4 days? Are those
Not
non-response
important. They're
emails?
just like, yeah, if they don't respond. So with LinkedIn, you can't send another message if they don't respond to the first one. Just it's a quirk of it. Unless you have Sales Navigator and you're using a different type of outreach, because these are net new people that I'm adding. Anyways, it's basically just like, hey, I'm just putting this back in your inbox. And then the third one is, I think it name drops a few of our bigger guests. It's like, hey, I thought you'd be a good fit to be on this episode with Faraday and Smile Direct Club and Harley Davidson. And then if they don't respond to that, I think the last one was like, hey, this offer still stands. I'm gonna archive this thread for now. Get back to me whenever. And that's just like a cold outreach secret 101 there. Give them the out and say you're not responding again, and the opportunity to say, no, I've just been busy. Hold on. Like that, you gotta, that's the last message. That's the key to the last message. But yeah, so we just send these things out there, and then from there, first step is a quick pre-interview call. And I said this yesterday on my show, maybe, or maybe we talked about it. It doesn't matter. I send them to a link on my Calendly, but within that Calendly, it has two major qualification questions that I force folks to answer because it asks them, and I don't have to ask. Because sometimes I'll forget to ask these things on these pre-calls. And so, for example, I don't. It's not. There's 56 weeks in a year, and I can only do 56 episodes of a podcast for the main feed, and it's not a good use of my time to do that with a client who on paper looks like a good fit, but in reality isn't. For example, maybe they're a startup that's got a lot of funding, but their revenue isn't there. Or sure, they have a Shopify store, but 90% of their business comes from Amazon. Like those aren't our ideal clients. So those are some of the validation questions that we have there. But say they pass that test, we have a quick 15-minute call. I do that to make sure that A, they'll show up. B, they can hold a conversation, see what they want to talk about, what I want to talk about. From there, we schedule everything out with the podcast, all that stuff. After the episode airs or is recorded, they get a soft pitch. Well, first of all, I talk about the pitch like, hey, like we're gonna give like I'm not selling you anything, but here's an offer for guests, and we present whatever the offer is at the time, and then there's an email follow up that has that reminder in it, and then when the episode goes live, there also is again a reminder of that offer in there. So I would say the redemption rate on that offer is 33% maybe. And then from there to start talking about working together is maybe another 50%. So out of 56 people a year, we're probably getting 2 to 4 clients out of it, but we charge a lot of money.
And new relationships, new referrals, the people that perhaps don't buy will buy later.
Yeah, it's
Perhaps
that
they
flywheel
refer
too.
something to you.
I
Yeah.
can I can look on our like we've got projects working on now where the relationship started 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Right? So you get more of these seeds planted out there. This is business development 101, everybody. It's just about creating opportunities and relationships and letting those seeds grow into plants, into trees, and then the fruit, you can eat the fruit eventually.
So good. So the two major qualification questions, one is literally how big is your business? Thank you, Apple,
Basically,
for the
yeah.
balloons. Yeah. And then the other one is,
Are you making that money on a platform? I have a clue on how to help you, basically.
oh, so you will say what platform are you,
I
what's your
think the way
business
I
based?
word it is I used ChatGPT to help me word it in a poetic way that wasn't like, "Are you on Shopify or not?" But so the way that it's worded is, I believe
Make
it's
this
something like,
nice chat. Hold on, make this nice chat
yeah,
GPT.
I do that a lot with emails. My first response isn't the best. So it basically says something along the lines of like, is your business is your biggest business unit your direct consumer website? After all, the name of the podcast is Honest E-commerce, not Honest Wholesale or Honest Amazon. That's like what I ended up with. Um, but that usually gets me the answer I want because I can tell if they're on Shopify just by using like a widget to like inspect what platform they're on. But I want to make sure that that platform is like their main platform because like if someone's like, oh, we have a Shopify store, but 90% of our money comes from these deals we do with Costco and Trader Joe's, I'm like, well
Not a good
then
fit.
yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Um, when are you first bringing up this idea that, hey, I'm gonna pitch you a call or another conversation, like a post interview conversation?
If it
You
doesn't come
alluded.
up organically right after we record the episode, but it oftentimes comes up organically. They'll be like, "So how do you make money? Why are you doing like on the pre-call?" They're like, "Yeah, I have a question for you. Like, why are you doing this?" And I was like, "Oh, like a lot of these interviews lead to business eventually." And they're like, "You gonna try to sell me something?" I'm like, "I'm not gonna try to sell you anything. Like, no. It's like we'll have an offer if you can take it up if you want or not. And the offer's free. We're not selling them anything with the offer. It's a free offer."
So good. I am going to ask you more questions about podcasting here in a second. Would you say that you clearly have this sales skill set, this marketing skill set? You're an active reader, so you're learning there. Um, bulk of this is coming from trying to sell yourself as a musician and build your band? Or like you have a lot of these core sales skills. Where would you say it
Um,
originated from?
well, like I was a natural born advantage was I definitely had like the gift of gab, and I'm not scared to talk to anybody. So that's just I had an advantage there, but that is also something you just force yourself to learn. Just get out of your comfort zone, start asking people weird shit at bars. I don't know, like you can get out of that stuff. But some books that I will recommend is You Can't Learn How to Ride a Bike at a Webinar. Oh, hold on, I gotta look this up. It's a kind of a twist on like a spin selling thing. You can't teach a kid to ride a bike at a seminar, but it's a Sandler's training thing. That one was like really interesting. Spin selling obviously is great. I mean, I could just look. Where are all my books? They're right next to me. Yeah, I read a lot of sales books just to kind of learn how to do this a little bit better. But I mean, if it all at the end of the day comes down to get to know as fast as possible, because then you're not wasting your time on bad prospects. You're focusing on the good prospects. Um, and then I don't know, just being confident,
Yeah,
following up.
I would say clearly you have this capacity too to read, get an idea, and then try that idea. Right? So many people will read a book, get an idea, and then they don't do anything with that. They aren't like, well, let's see how this works. You're clearly having enough conversations where you're A/B testing, you're
Yeah, you got to
negotiating
be action
style.
oriented. I mean, everyone. I think a big way entrepreneurs can fail or delay their success is by not taking action and by waiting to have the perfect plan. Newsflash, there'll never be a perfect plan. There'll never be a perfect script. I don't use scripts in my sales process at all. I have an idea of how the conversation is going to go, and then I have a conversation with another human, like a real human. I'm trying to learn some stuff, trying to figure out what the problems are, give them great advice. Um, there's a process to our like what we can or can't talk about on calls and how deep we'll get on stuff. But like outside of that, it's pretty much spin selling. That Sandler's training thing is pretty dang close to what I'm doing. Um, I think from like a business advice perspective on like an agency thing, I think you should have a tripwire offer that you can make strategically free. That will change the game these days. A lot of if you're in my ecosystem in like Shopify world, like merchants are selfish and they demand free stuff. Because Shopify has given them just an insanely powerful tool. So to win that trust, there's a lot of people out there that declare they're experts with nothing to back it up. So all of those people doing bad jobs put a bad taste in people's mouths for people doing good jobs. So you kind of have to prove it.
Yes. I'm looking at electriceye.io again, which is your company website. At the very bottom, it says get your free ebook sharing the strategies to doubling your sales by subscribing now, putting your name, email address, and hit subscribe. Is that your key tripwire, or do you have another one that? And again, anybody listening, a tripwire is you're giving something for free, so somebody subscribes or joins willingly joins your ecosystem, so then you can start the conversation with them, whether through follow-up emails, whatever your follow-up nurture sequences are. Yes.
Yes and no. So that book I need to rewrite, but that is just a free thing. We don't even use that really much for anything in our. It's great content, fantastic content, and I touched on a lot of the stuff from that book actually today on this episode. But if you click on Shopify Diagnostic, and you'll see there's a price next to it too on our website. That's what I'm talking about. And this
Oh.
isn't a $5 price point either, ladies and gentlemen. But we're a lot more upmarket than some other people. That I will so circling back to using the podcast as an outbound sales tool. These people aren't actively looking for our service. So the way that you present yourself in these scenarios is you have to lead with value to win that relationship and that trust, because they aren't asking you for your services at all. So you have to entice them with something valuable to have them open up the books or whatever you need access to do what you can do to show them the opportunity, the value that you can create. It is a completely different way of doing sales than someone that's coming in inbound. I would never pitch someone that is in my inbox asking actively for a project. I would never slow that down saying, "Oh, well, you want to get on our podcast first? Like, let me gum up the works." They're just two completely different strategies.
I love it. You are so good. Okay, so we could keep going down this rabbit hole, but you've given so many great, great nuggets. But one interesting thing that you did with your podcast process or bringing people on your podcast is you have a $500 production fee. And is this and I understand that that can go away with a trade of value. So everybody, I cold outreached to Chase and said, "Hey, are you looking for an interesting guest to be on your podcast?" And he said, "Yes, I am. Who is it?" And I said, "It's me." And I said, "I'm awesome," or something. And you said, "Great, I'd love to have you on your show." Or you started the process, uh, and you're like, "Hey, there is a $500 production fee, however." And I was like, well, how about this? Let's do an episode swap. You can be on my top 2.5% podcast, and I'll be on yours, and let's waive the fee. And you said yes. And so here we are. But standard operating procedure, everybody's paying that $500 production fee because there's a lot of work. Anybody listening or watching, like when you do a podcast and you produce a podcast, there's some work going on. So that's a real thing. Yeah, I'm going to let you answer now. Go ahead.
For for the brands, for our ideal client profile, no fee. They never see that at all.
Okay.
Like, because those are the people I want to work with. That is my those are the main stories that I'm telling. All that content I am out of, that's a marketing expense for the agency, right? But
Yep.
because I have this the podcast, we have this the reach, we have the network, and I'm sure that you get this too, Mischa. Your inbox is just inundated with people that want to be guests. And I can't say yes to everybody or we'd go broke. Also, some people just aren't good guests and they shouldn't be on the show. And there's just some are just aren't good fits. So we have a default autoresponder to anyone that's reaching out that is not our ICP. It's like, hey, it costs money to make these episodes. Like, do you have $500 to offset those costs as like for the production budget? And that gets, a lot of riffraff out of my inbox. It A lot of people have marketing budgets and they'll just pay it. If it's the CEO of a publicly traded company, they've got a fund to do just that. Then some people like Mischa are creative. They're like, how about this? I'll give you something of value that'll offset that fee. And it's whatever it is, it's fair. It's just a conversation. It's a negotiation at the end of the day. But yeah, I wouldn't say that it's a huge moneymaker. It definitely pays for the production and then some. I mean, then also at the same time, podcast ads pay for the production as well. Especially during the pandemic, podcasts might have been one of our best clients.
Amazing. Thank you for that answer. I had more questions to ask. I want to be cognizant of time because we're doing really good here. I think we've clocked an hour and we could keep going. Um, other than the relationships you're able to engage and start with your podcast, with your process. So other than that, potential new clients, relationships, what's the top thing that your podcast is doing for you these days, or what's the biggest, value add for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm speaking on stages at conferences because of it. I'm going to E-Tail here in 2 weeks. I'm going to Shop Talk next month. I'm going to Sub Summit and speaking there in June. The media angle has opened up a lot of doors for me in that perspective to speak at these conferences about cool things or interview guests on stage or have a panel. I'm doing a live podcast at E-Tail as well. So that's really cool. Leaving this office and going out into the real world because of this microphone. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, amazing. All right. I think we've hit the time limit. You just bring so much value, so much insights. Has been so, so, so good. Before we hang up, anything come to mind where you're like, man, I was really hoping to talk about this or say this, or there's that last thought where you'd be like, oh, I wished I'd have said.
Well, I when we were talking about the tripwire, I mean, here's the honest truth. Here's the tripwire. It's our offer, right? I'm allowed to give away a few of those a month. Reach out quickly if you think you're a good fit for Electric Eye before Sean tells me we can't do any more for free. That would be the offer. electriceye.io. Click on contact, schedule a call with me. It's literally with me, and we'll chat.
Amazing. Good. Electriceye.io. Click on contact. I'm there right now. It's at the very right, top right. Click on it, schedule the call. And this is, what are you giving them for free again?
The Shopify diagnostic, if you qualify. So if you're doing over $1 million a year, we're going to do an audit of your store. Depending on your goals, it depends. Like, why are you reaching out? We'll start there. But depending on your goals, we could do an audit of the store. So it'd be the front end of the store, the UX, finding issues there, the back end, the code, the app stack, text choices, looking at all those things. We can come up with a laundry list of optimizations for your store and kind of prescribe a better solution of how to resolve those.
Amazing, Chase. Thank you so much. I'm going to hit stop and we'll say goodbye offline. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Table Rush Talk Show. For resources to help you sell your stuff, go to belove.media/resources. That's belove.media/resources. And be sure to subscribe, comment, 5-star, and share. Thank you again for listening.